Welcome to Law Excellence Hindu News Analysis. Today we are going to cover these 5 topics that are appearing in the Hindu newspaper, which can be important from the perspective of both prelims and mains examination. Okay. Now coming to the first article of the day. This article is saying that House Committee flags excess spending by the 4 ministries. Okay, this is the context of the news. Now, Public Accounts Committee is very important from the examination perspective because previously in UPSC prelims it was asked that which of the following committee is the largest committee? There the answer is estimate committee. Okay, likewise PAC also important. In mains also, PAC was clearly asked, that is what are the functions and limitations of the Public Accounts Committee. This article is saying that the context of the news is that the Public Account Committee headed by the senior Congress leader K.C. Venugopal is saying that recently some of the ministries such as Finance, Defence, Railways, Chemicals and Fertilizers exceeded their sanctioned budget by the Parliament in their expenditure. That is what they're saying. So this indicating the lack of proper estimation of budget requirements. Now this is what criticism given by this PAC committee. Okay, this is what the context of the news. Now from the examination perspective, you have to understand what is meant by the Public Accounts Committee, why it is needed, what are its functions, what are the limitations of it. Okay. Now from the examination perspective, you have to remember about the Article 15 of the Constitution. Now it is being said that when the budget estimates are exceeded, now Article 15 of the Indian Constitution authorizes that for supplementary grants, excess grants or exceptional grants. See, Article 15, is saying that the amount authorized for a service is insufficient or when a new service requires additional funds, it is the President submits a statement to the Parliament. Now these grants are presented to and passed by the House before the end of the financial year. Okay, like this. Now this is what the thing. Okay. Now from the perspective of examination perspective, you have to know certain things about the Public Accounts Committee, right? Now we often talk about the Parliament accounts executive responsible, right? Now how it can make executive responsible? There are many ways, right? It can be question hour, it can be committees. Now one of the form of accountability is financial accountability, right? Now this financial accountability is ensured by the Public Accounts Committee. Now that is what the function of this PAC. Remember from the examination perspective, certain facts that Public Account Committee consists of 22 members. Okay, 22 members. Now it consists of members from both the houses of the Parliament. Okay, remember that Estimates Committee consists of 30 members. That all the 30 members are from Lok Sabha. But here Public Accounts Committee consists of 22 members. Okay, remember both from House of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Okay, now from Lok Sabha it consists of 15 members and from Rajya Sabha it is 7 members. Okay. Next, the term of members is 1 year, and chairperson is appointed by the Speaker of Lok Sabha. Okay, remember. But majorly and most of the time, the chairperson is opposition. Why? No, there is no rule or no statute for this, but it is just a convention that opposition leader is heading this Public Accounts Committee. Okay. Another important thing is minister cannot be a member. Minister cannot be a member of this committee. Now this is what the thing. Now, what are the functions of this committee? Okay, the first and foremost function is that examination of audit reports. Okay, now you know that CAG audits the reports of the government such as accounts of expenditure, revenue, and audit findings. Right now, these reports are tabled in the Parliament by the President. Right now, these reports are examined by the committee in the Parliament, that is PAC. Okay, it ensures that the funds allocated by the Parliament are spent within the law or for the intended purpose. Okay, now that is what one of the main function. Okay. And another important function is that it review the government expenditures also, right? It scrutinizes whether public money has been used efficiently, economically, and prudently in accordance with the Appropriation Act passed by the Parliament. Okay. Next, it also scrutinizes autonomous bodies, government bodies such as SEBI. Recently, PAC also demanding the scrutiny of SEBI because of the lot of allegations on the SEBI chairman and all, and because of the financial irregularities. And another important thing is scrutinize financial transactions of the government at various levels. Okay, this is one of the important function. Next, it also do the accountability of the executive also regarding the financial matters. It also evaluates policy matters also, and it also recommends financial administration on report if there is any mismanagement. Earlier there are PAC committees on GST and all those things also, right? In this way, it ensures the financial accountability of the government. Now this is what the function. Now whenever any question comes on how executive's accountability is maintained, by the council, or accountability of council of ministers is maintained by the Lok Sabha. You can use financial accountability is maintained by the PAC. So there are success also. Like now it has been said that like scandals in 2G spectrum case and all those things. There is a proper role of public account committee. Now public account committee review the findings of the CAG regarding the eligible losses to the exchequer and all those things. Now this is what happened. Now there are certain limitations to this public account committee also from the mains perspective. The first and foremost limitation is advisory role. Okay. Now PSA has no executive authority, right? Its recommendations are not binding on the government, which can choose to accept or it can ignore also, right? Second important thing is limited jurisdiction. Now what does it mean? See, PSC focus only on the audit reports of the CAG, okay? It cannot scrutinize the policy decisions or political motives, even if they are resulting in financial irregularities. For example, it does not examine the merits and demerits of the government policies, okay? It only sees that whether the particular financial transaction is within the legality or not, or within as per the statute or not. That is whether it is for the intended purpose or not. Whether the purpose lead to the proper outcomes or outputs, it doesn't matter at all. Okay, that is what one thing. Next, dependence on CAG. Now, PSC is heavily reliant on the findings and reports of the CAG for its investigations. If the CAG misses irregularities, they may go unnoticed. Now, this is what one of the issue. Another issue is that absence of real-time oversight. See, PSC examines the expenditures retrospectively. That is, usually after the financial year has ended. It cannot intervene in the ongoing financial decisions. Now, this is what one of the major issue. Next, executive control. See, the committees often faces resistance or delays in obtaining necessary documents or evidence from the executive. So, this limits their effectiveness. Okay, these are what the major challenges. Okay, remember these points as a keyword so that you can use them in your answer. Okay, now we will move to the next article. Now, this article is saying that center scraps no detention policy for the classes 5 and 8 class. Less stress on the remedial measures. Now, what is the context of the news? You know that as per the Right to Education Act of 2019, a student cannot be detained, okay, until the class 8th o'clock, or a student cannot be held back from the classes. For example, let's say if a student failed class 6, he cannot be held back in class 6 as per the earlier act. Now, this act is amended recently. As per the new rules, what is saying that now detention policy is taken away. That is, for example, if a student is not meted the criteria for promotion in classes of 5th or 8th, what will happen if the children fails? He can give the time for 2 months. Within 2 months, there will be re-examination. Now, after the re-examination also, if he or she fails again, then they can be held back. Held back means that they have to study again that 5th class and all. Now, once who is held back, the students need to get special attention from the class teacher, and if possible from the parents also. Okay, now this is what the author is saying. Now the author is saying that, or the article is saying that this policy is mainly for improving the learning outcomes. Why this is important? Now you may hear about this survey called as class 5th class student is not able to study 4th class textbooks and all those things, right? Now these kind of surveys are saying that learning outcomes are very poor, quality of education is very less. Now to avoid situations like that, these type of detention policies are now removed. So the students are not able to catch up to the promotion criteria, they can be held back. Now this is what the context of the news. Okay, now how you can use this in the examination in GS paper 2, education is a syllabus topic. Now quality of education as a theme is repeating in the GS paper 2, right? Especially primary education. Now here also you can use this policy as a new measures taken by the government. Okay, in that context or in that dimension you can use this one point. Okay, and there is a point in this article also, still no student can be completely expelled from the school until class 8. Okay, this is a point you have to remember. Okay, no student can be expelled from the school until class 8. Now this is as per the RTI Act also. Now this is there, this is not removed. Okay, don't confuse with detention and expels. Expel is mean expelling from the school. Detain means you are detaining from the next class. That means holding back to the same class. This is about the context. Okay, now we will move to the next article. Now this article is saying that India's steel frame does need a check. Now what is the context of the news? Now this article is talking about the bureaucratic reforms, need of bureaucratic reforms. Okay, now role of civil service in a democracy is a civil GS paper 2 topic, right? Now in this context it is relevant. Now every year there is a question about the requirement of governance reforms in GS paper 2. Here you can link this article. Okay, now this article is saying that India is an emerging economy, largest democracy. Okay, still there is some inequality present in terms of access to social services, access to schemes, access to development, and and still a lot of development need to be happen. Now the development that is left, which is to be happen in the form of inclusive and sustainable development. For that, one of the bottleneck is bureaucracy. Okay, this article is saying there are certain challenges in the bureaucracy that need to be addressed, and article also suggested certain reforms also. Okay, thus this article is saying that there is a need of reforms in the bureaucracy, and especially particularly in the Indian Administrative Service, that is IAS. That is what this article is saying. Okay. First of all, a lot of reforms are suggested, or a lot of committees were established since independence in 1950s, 60s, even in 2005 also. For example, in 1960 there is Administrative Reform Commission. In 2005, ARC2 is there. Now all these committees recommended a lot of reforms suggestions, but which are not at all implemented. Right. For example, it has been said that promotion should be merit based, performance based, but should not be based on the seniority. It is recommended in this ARC also, but it is not at all implemented. Reduction of age of entry into civil service is also recommended by these committees. Again, which is also not taken for. All these things are there. So it is because of lack of political will and reluctance from the bureaucracy itself. Thus, these reforms are neglected. Now, that is what this article is saying. Okay, first and foremost thing. Now, these points are important from the examination perspective also. Now, since 2014, this present government is taking a lot of reforms, especially regarding bureaucracy. For example, they are promoting the lateral entry. So this article is saying that presently at the central level, only 33% of joint secretaries are from the IAS. This indicating that this dominance of the IAS is reduced. Now, this is one way of reforming the democracy and all, because of the need of specialized assistance and all in the context of advanced technology and specializations. Some specialized advice is required from the specialists. Now, this is what the author is saying. So, from the examination perspective, we will see especially what are the challenges and what can be the suggestions. The first and foremost thing is challenges political interference. That is what mentioned by this author. The author is saying that the transfers of the bureaucrats promotions are often linked to the loyalty to the political leader. That is what the thing mentioned in this article. Now, this is one of the issue. And not only that, political interference is there in honest works also. For example, if an officer is very much honest, now the local people call to the politician and all, because to ensure that their influence is there on all those things. This is where their work is often prohibited or inhibited. Now this is what the political interference in, and it can be have many dimensions also, right? And another important thing, lack of specialization. Now, often it is being said that our IAS officer generalist in nature. They cannot take adequate, innovative tasks in the bureaucracy. It's because of their generalist in nature. Now, one of the important thing is that the reason for this, generalization is that there is a frequent transfers of the bureaucrats, and especially there is a frequent rotation among the departments. For example, if a person is working in the agriculture department, suddenly he may change to the petroleum department or chemical industry, something like that. Secretary to the Ministry of Chemicals. Now, in this way, that person, he or she cannot develop the specialization in that policy, in that policy sector especially. Okay, that is one of the problem. Another thing is centralized decision making. Now, it is means that the decision is often made at the level of ministerial executive, that is political executive level. Now, if at all any advice given by the bureaucrats, it is often sidelined. It is not considered much. Okay, that is what one of the thing. Another important thing is corruption and inefficiency. Now, a lot of cases we have seen in the news also regarding the corruption of many bureaucrats and inefficiency, lack of indifference to the people and all. For example, recently an example we have seen that two IAS officer couple cleared the stadium just because of walking with the dog and all type of incidents are happening. Corruption cases in Jharkhand, especially in Pooja single case and all those things. Now, it indicates the corruption and inefficiency. Another important thing, lack of accountability, especially because of the centralized decision making that is happening. You cannot say that this particular officer is accountable for this particular metrics. For example, let's say in a district, if a scheme is not working well, if people are not adapting such a practice, for example, it may be Swachh Bharat or any other thing, or Jal Jeevan Mission, you cannot make an IAS officer accountable or any other officer accountable. There is nothing like that. So, hence, there is a lack of accountability. Thus, it leads to inefficiency among the officers, wastage of resources, and things like that. That is what mentioned in this by the author. Okay. Author also mentions certain suggestions also, which can be important from the examination perspective. We will see that now. Okay. So the first and foremost suggestion is performance-based promotions. Now, remember that these suggestions are nothing but given by the Administrative Reform Commission. Okay. Author mentioned the most of the suggestions are from the Administrative Reforms Commission. Okay. Try to mention this ARC in your answer. It adds value to you. Okay. Value to your answer. Now, the first and foremost is performance-based promotions. See, this is very important. Now, presently the promotions are majorly based on the seniority of an officer. Okay. Because of this condition, this creates complacency. Okay, there is a sense of security that there is no need or competition to act in an innovative way, to take any proactive steps and things like that. Hence, the author is saying that we need performance-based promotion. Now, this creates motivation and encouragement among the officers. Another important thing mentioned is developing the metrics to assess the performance. Now, we are always talking about the efficiency of an officer, efficiency of bureaucracy, and things like that. Now, what is the way of measuring the efficiency? There is no one knows, right? No, there is no metric. So first of all, the author is saying we need to develop certain metrics to assess the performance. No, metrics mean what happened? Like you can say that metrics means the reach of particular scheme. successfulness of particular scheme, things like that, or attitudinal change among the people, success of a scheme, all this can be the metrics. That's one way of choosing. That's why others say we need certain standards or metrics to assess the performance of the bureaucrats, so that then only we can make people accountable. Next, reduce the age limit. Now the chances of being inefficient is more with increasing age. Now, because if increasing age, this creates a lot of burden on the people. Now, physically, mentally, emotionally, there are a lot of need that is there for the people to attend to the familial emotions and personal emotions and things like that. That's why it reduces the proactiveness of the officer. Now, the other is saying that we need to reduce the age limit. Now, this is what said by the ARC also. Eliminate redundant agencies. Now, the other is saying that there are a lot of agencies, especially autonomous and statutory agencies at both central and state level, in which they are not performing or not doing any functions much, and they are redundant also. That leads to wastage of expenditure, unnecessary bureaucratic hurdles and red tapeism and all. So the author is saying that we need to first of all eliminate such type of agencies. Okay, that is what the author is saying. Next important thing, lateral. Now you know that lateral entry means nothing but taking up senior level positions, some specialists from the private sector. Right now, this is what suggested by the year. Now, for example, you know that this Nandan Nilekani is a very famous personality. Who is one of the person who played a very key role in developing the Aadhaar. Okay, he is also from the lateral entry. Okay, that such type of things are there. Next, developing internal specializations. Now, what does it mean? Now, author is saying that we need to avoid frequent transfers, internal rotation among the departments. For example, if a person is working in a particular electricity department, let him or let her to work for longer years in electricity department, so that he or she can have a lot of proper specialization in that department, so that future he can contribute in a lot of reforms in that sector, so that he can be specialized in that way. So that is what the author is saying. Okay. Next, accountability mechanisms. The author is saying that presently there is no accountability mechanism. For example, let's say if a particular policy is launched, for example, let's say Jal Jeevan Mission, it is a central administrative office, that is IAS officer, has to be responsible for the effectiveness and reach of such policies. Such type of accountability policies are needed. No, that is what also other mentioned. Now, another important case study, or you can say best example of best practice, that is recently, Trump suggested that in USA there is a need to establish the Department of Government Efficiency, in which the spending, that is money, human resources, used efficiently in a manner so that it does not lead to wastage of government resources and all. Now, such type of department is also very good for the conditions of India. That is what the author is saying. And not only this, even government taken this, mission Karma Yogi to reform the bureaucracy as per the needs of the current society. That means skilling them with the present day requirement, digital skills and things like that. Now, these are the things at least you have to mention. So use this thing as a best practice or case study or suggestion also. That adds value to you. Okay. Now, these are the things you have to remember. Now, we will move to the next article. Now, this article is saying that envisioning India as a global skill supplier. Now, what is the context of that? See, this article is mainly talking about that there are a lot of migration from India, especially regarding employment to other countries such as UK, USA, Canada, Australia, and other Gulf Cooperation Council countries. Okay. Now, the other is saying that there are many countries, especially developed countries, which are facing the problem of aging. So there is a lack of workforce also, right? Now, in this context, India can be a global skill supplier. Now, what does it mean? Now, India has very young population. For example, mean age in India is just around 29 in nature. Now, most of the population are in the working age population are 15 to 59 years or 15 to 64 years. So most of the population, that is more than 35% of the population, or around 60% of the population, is in this of working age population. Now we have to use this demographic dividend not only for India, for also for the global. That is what this global skill supplier means. Now the author is saying that we need to understand or forecast what is the skill that is demanding in other country by collaborating and cooperating with other countries. That the author is calling a skill forecasting. Remember this keyword. This can be used in your examination. Okay. Now we have to assess the demand of different types of skills. Now this is very important, especially in the context of protectionism. Now what does it mean? See, protectionism not only in terms of the trade, but also in terms of the migration also. There is a lot of countries are protesting, especially recently you may have seen protests in UK also, especially against the immigrants and all. So unless and until if the migrants are not useful for the local country, unskilled migration is often criticized. That is what one thing. Another important thing is we need have evidence-based policy. That is evidence-based migration policy. Now there is present policies working in silos. For example, we have policy for international migration. We have policy for separately for skill, but there is no integrated policy for skill of migration people. And this article is also saying presently we don't have data also. For example, whatever the data we have, is only getting this from immigration clearances from the airports and all. Now that is only telling the details about the whether particular person is that low skilled workers migrated into 18 select countries. Another is educational attainment. Now it is telling about only about the educational attainment of the students or the people who are going, or some of the unskilled or workers migrating to other countries. Now it is not telling the what is the adequate or what is the exact skill of that person who is migrating. Okay, this article is saying that hence we need a proper skill census in India and also skill forecasting of other countries. Now this is what the author is saying. Simply this is the way. This is what the author is mentioned, and also author is saying there presently the skill standards need to have at international level. Presently we may have in India the skill standards because there is no proper skill standards that can be transnational, right? For example, skill standard in India may have one certification, it cannot be acceptable in other countries. Okay, we need to have, or we need to align our India's national skill quality framework or curriculum should be aligned to the global countries. Okay, so that if any skill learned in India by any worker, migrant worker or anyone it is, that certificate or a recognition has to be accepted the worldwide. Okay, and that should be there. That is one of the things mentioned in this article. Okay, remember these points, that can be used in your answer, especially in GS paper 2 IR, or it can be used in GS paper 3 employment. Okay, it is relevant in that way also. We will move to the next article of that. Now this article is saying that India's reliance on China for critical minerals. Now the article is saying that China is showing its dominance in terms of the supply chain of the critical minerals. Now in this way, this is affecting the economies of many countries, especially India, because all these countries are depending on the China for the supply of critical minerals. Now, these critical minerals, what does mean by first of all critical minerals? Now, critical minerals means the minerals that are very significant for the development of critical sectors, especially the sectors that are very important for technological advancement. That are sectors that are important for the economy and all those things. For example, semiconductors. It can be renewable energy like solar energy. Okay, solar energy requires silicon wafers and all those things, and semicon industries also requires that. EV vehicles require lithium and all. No, all these are the critical minerals. Okay, that's why even India, and especially by the Minister of Mines, by amending this Mines and Minerals Development Act of 1951, it declared 30 minerals as a critical. Now from the Prince perspective, we will know that what are the 30 minerals also first of all. And this article is saying that first of all China has dominance. Now we will understand what is the dominance of China, and next we will understand that why does India rely on imports first of all. Now how far China is controlling these exports and how it is controlling exports, and certain other suggestions given by the author, and what are the steps taken by India. Now these are the things we will look in this article. Now why China is dominating? See, China is dominating because of it has vast amount of resources. First of all, that's one thing. Not just because of vast amount of resources, it also because of strategic investments across the value chain. Now, what does it mean? For example, recently, it provided an investment of around $20 billion into the exploration itself. Now, that's what the foresight it has. That it has a vision of thinking that advanced technology requires certain amount of critical minerals. For that, it is doing a lot of investment. Okay, that's one thing. And next important thing is, China's dominance extends beyond the reserves to include the processing and refining. That means it is being said that China has a lot of capacity of processing and refining also. It has the capacity of processing and refining. Now, for example, let's say it has 87% of the rare earth processing capacity. This means that China has a capacity of 87% of the rare earth minerals, 58% of the lithium processing capacity, 68% of the silicon. Okay, which are these are very very important minerals. Okay, bismuth and all those things. Now, for example, these are very important. Now it is playing a key role in the supply chain. Now, for example, bismuth is very important in the pharmaceutical industry and chemical industries. Now, lithium is very crucial for the EV batteries and energy storage. That means, if you want to transition to renewable energy, we need to have lithium. Okay. And silicon is very important for semiconductors and solar panels, right? Semiconductors and solar panels. Now, for silicon, India is a lot of dependent on China. And there is titanium, which is essential for aerospace and defense applications, and tellurium, which is important for again solar power, thermoelectric vehicles and all. Okay. Now, in this way, it is very important, and China is controlling these minerals. And not only that, China strategically investing in the overseas projects also in terms of mining, exploration, and all those things. Okay. In this way, it is having a lot of edge. Now, conversely, it is being said that India is dependent on China because of India has a lot of resources, but still India is dependent. It is because India has less, processing facilities, less processing capacity, less refining capacity. Okay, that is what the author is saying. Because of the strategic advantage, China is having an export control. Now, how it is doing this export control? See, in certain ways, China is weaponizing the trade of these critical minerals also, whichever, for example, especially these Western countries, and they realize there is any requirement of, a particular mineral and all, they are weaponizing them, they are disrupting the supply chain and all. And they are avoiding the control of, certain minerals that are heavily dependent on the material imports of from the Western countries. Okay, such type of things that are doing. And China also refrain from any actions on a particular countries or industrial enterprises in which domestic country is also dependent on. That way is strategically imposing the restrictions and all. That is what China is doing. Okay. Now, how far India is doing? See, among the 30 minerals that are considered as critical, now it has been said that in at least 6 minerals, India's dependency ratio is more than 40% on China. This indicates that how critical that is. India is dependent on China for the minerals. Now the next important thing is challenges. Now when India is relying on the imports from the China, see, the first and foremost thing is that there are several structural challenges in its mining and processing, especially regarding the policies and all, right? Now we know that there is a difference of major minerals and minor minerals and things like that, and there are resistance from the people also, because most of the times minerals are located in the dense forest areas and all those things. Okay, and not only that, these critical minerals are mostly deep-seated minerals. Now to explore these deep-seated minerals or exploit or excavate these deep-seated minerals, we require high-risk investments in exploration and mining technology. Hence, it was not there in India. Next important thing is that India has limited processing and refining capacity. Now the best example for this, recently in the exploration we found that India has around 5.9 million tons of lithium deposits in Jammu and Kashmir. Recently we found that, but still we are importing a lot of lithium without taking any action regarding the processing or excavation of these minerals. It is because India lacks the technological capability to extract this lithium from such geological formations, especially in such critical areas like Jammu and Kashmir. That indicates that. And next important, there is policy ineffectiveness to attract the private sector. Now, as it said that just now I mentioned about the high risk investment in the mining and all, private sector is deterred because of this. So private sector is very much limited presence in this mineral exploration and excavation and all those things. And next important thing is high investment. Now, these are what the challenges, or these are what the things why India rely on the imports. Now, importing is very much economically feasible for India. Okay, that is what the thing. Now, the author is mentioned that India already taken few steps such as Kabil. There is Khanij Videsh India Limited. Now, this is a collaboration of India with other countries, especially to get this mining assets in the foreign countries. That's one thing. Now, second important thing is the strategic partnership with countries such as mineral security partnership, with the USA, and India also having this, join this critical raw material club to diversify its supply sources. Now, these are the steps taken by the India, and not only that, recently declared certain 30 minerals as critical minerals. Now, what is the advantage of declaring such critical minerals is it provides flexibility to encourage the private sector, to participate in the mining, exploration, and all those things. Okay, that's the first thing. And next important thing is it reduces the restrictions that put in the mining and all those things. Okay, because that is one of the thing declaring 30 minerals and all. Another important thing is that recently India started investing in the institutes like research institutes like CSIR, Geological Survey of India also, especially regarding the exploration and all those things. Okay. Another two other suggestions given by this author is that author saying that we need to promote recycling and circular economy to reduce the intensity of this mining and all. And next important thing is production linked incentive. So presently we know that production linked incentive in which government is incentivizing the extra production that is done by the companies. Likewise, we need to have such type of production based incentives to the critical minerals also to encourage private sectors. Okay, that is what author is saying. Okay, now these are the things you have to remember from the examination perspective. Especially this article is very important from the perspective of GS paper 1. In GS paper 1, it is been asked what are the rare earth minerals, what is the present status of Indian exploration. So this was asked in GS paper 1. Not only this, in GS paper 1, it is been asked what are the limitations of India's mining sector, because it is contributing very less amount of GDP percent, that is less than 2%, because though India having a lot of mining history. This is one thing. Now another important thing is that strategic investments and all in GS paper 3 also, right? In this way you can link the article. Okay. In GS paper 2 also you can say that supply chain dependence on China. There also you can use. In this way diversify the current affairs article. Okay. I hope you like the video. Thank you.